Welcome to this Glenlivet Christmas Cocktail Masterclass. I'm Harriet. I'm joined here by David, our whisky ambassador. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Good to see you, Harriet. Hi everybody, I'm David. I'm the UK ambassador for the Glenlivet, and it's looking forward to taking you guys through some wonderful drinks today.
And I'm right in thinking we'll be making 3 Christmas-inspired cocktails.
We are going to be doing 3 Christmas-inspired cocktails. What we're actually going to be doing is we're looking through a little bit of that sort of change of season going on. We're going to start like big, bright and tropical, and we're going to move into a little bit of autumnal, and we're going to finish on that beautiful winter warmer, the hot toddy as well, which I know is a favourite. I know that's a favourite of yours.
One of my favourites. What are we going to start with? Should we start a wee bit of brand knowledge about the Glenlivet?
Yeah, 100%. Good place to start, to be fair. So those of you who are familiar with the Glenlivet will know that we are the definitive Speyside single malts. Our history does go back beyond the established date that we have on our bottle of 1824. Our founder George Smith was in fact an illicit distiller in the Livet Valley, but he was the first to get a license, which is why we are the Glenlivets. We were the first to hold a license for distilling post-Excise Act of 1823. But even prior to that, when King George visited Scotland in 1822, he actually requested the whiskey off the Glenlivet.
Wow.
The King's drinking moonshine at this time, Harriet. Do you know what I mean? This is different times. But it was already like, you know, it already had a signature of quality behind it, and that remains through to this day. And what would happen eventually was that we would become licensed as just the Glenlivet to distinguish ourselves and make sure that that quality and that heritage and that history that we actually have in every single bottle that we produce remains true. Do you know what I mean? There are no imitators with us. Do you know what I mean? We are the original and we are the definitive.
So you would say it paved the way in Speyside whiskey, perhaps?
I would totally say that, absolutely. You can actually see George Smith on every single bottle as well. So we're very, very passionate about that. We're very, very passionate about that actual history and heritage that we lay into it as well. A wonderful thing about it as well, Harriet, and I'm sure you agree with me on this one, is the fact that when we taste the Glenlivet, we're tasting that beautiful sort of fresh tropical flavour as well. So our master distiller, Alan Winchester, actually does say that whenever you taste pineapple in the Glenlivet, you're tasting the distillery. Now the wonderful thing about that is it's just a nice anchor point, isn't it? You know what I mean?
I absolutely agree. I think always in Founder's Reserve you're getting through your citrus notes, your floral notes, and I would absolutely agree with you, the pineapple.
100%, yeah.
Even if you're at home right now, have a little nose of your whiskey before we start making the cocktails, just to see what kind of flavour notes you can find for yourself. Everyone finds a different thing with whiskey. It's very personal, and I would emphasise that.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know what I mean? The most beautiful thing about whiskey is the fact it's a conversation at the end of the day, and it always should be that way. Everyone's going to get something different from it. Everyone's going to smell something different, taste something different, get a different sort of flavour note. And just because one person thinks one way and one person tastes another way, doesn't mean one person's right, one person's wrong, does it? It means, you know, at the end of the day, you're just getting different things from it. But you will get, when you taste the Glenlivet, that bright, fresh, tropical pineapple flavour. And that evolves throughout our entire range. The 2 whiskies we're looking at today, the Glenlivet Caribbean Reserve and the Glenlivet Founders Reserve, you'll be able to see that element in there when we go through the whiskies, but you'll see it slightly chops and changes a little bit as well. And we'll describe how that goes on as we go through the drinks. But all the way up to our higher styles, 18, 21, that kind of thing. It'll always be there, but just in a slightly different tone.
It's always on the back burner.
Always on the back burner, 100%. Yeah.
Now, equipment for today, what can we expect to need?
Yes, so we've got 2 builds today. We've got 2 built cocktails and we've got 1 shaken. So what we're going to need is a measure such as this, a jigger. Now this one I've got here is 50 mils on one side, 25 mils on the other. I imagine some of you have got this at home, but if you haven't, don't worry about it. You can use things such as a standard shot glass, which is about 25 mils. If you've got anything with any, like, you know, any little milliliter things on it, like a Pyrex.
Like a mini measurer?
That's the one, yeah, 100%, anything like that. An espresso cup is quite cool as well, it's about 75 mils, but just always try and measure these things beforehand so you can keep up. But I guarantee you somewhere in the cupboards you will have something there that you can actually use.
A good tip as well with the measuring, if you want to practice measuring out in your glass before as well, just so you know how much volume your glass can hold, just before you start the class.
Absolutely.
Next piece of equipment?
Next piece of equipment, we are going to go into 1 cocktail which will have a shaker in it.
And what could people at home use if they don't have a shaker?
So if you've got something like a protein shaker, that will work quite well as well. Something like a mason jar, anything like that. Basically anything that's going to hold liquid and ice in place so that when you're shaking, you know, it's not going to come out. You can actually...
It doesn't explode everywhere.
It doesn't make for it, no. Do you know what I mean? It's yeah, these are beautiful drinks.
No spillage.
But, yeah, you don't want them all over you at Christmas time. It's not the way. But yeah, if you've got anything that can contain the liquid and the ice, ice, and it can go from side to side and be a sealed container. That will work for you. Protein shaker, mason jar, that kind of thing is going to work wonderfully.
Jam jar as well.
Jam jar is a perfect one.
Yeah. Marmalade jar, maybe.
Well, I might go on that later. Little nice little tease there. I like that. Nice little tease. We've got a bar spoon as well, so a slightly longer spoon, just to sort of lift through those elements of the drinks, sort of lift all the flavors up. A standard teaspoon is going to work absolutely wonderfully for this. This is just the equipment that we've got with us today. And the other thing I've got as well is a Hawthorne strainer and a fine strainer. Now, this equipment, like I say, if you've got a little cocktail kit at home, there's a likelihood you will have this in here somewhere. If you haven't, don't worry about it. If you're going to have something just to hold back the ice a little bit, that will work wonderfully. Maybe if you've got a sieve or something along those lines, that's going to work for the marmalade sour that we move on to shortly. But anything that can just hold back ice and other little bits. The more ice you can hold back in your drink, the smoother it's going to be, the tastier it's going to be, and the more sort of velvety and luscious it's going to be as well.
You don't want any ice chips.
No,
in the way of
if you can avoid it.
Anything.
If you can avoid it, yeah, because the thing is, if there's ice still in there at the end of the day, it's just going to dilute your drink a little bit more than the fresh ice that's in there, because it's already been shaken, it's already been cracked, it's already started warming up. So it's in your best interest to make sure you've got a good, strong drink there that's really full of flavour and isn't getting watered down as we go on.
Right, should we get on to making a drink?
I think that's a great idea. Well, if I know you half as well as I think I do, I'm not surprised at all, Harriet.
And I believe we have the TARTAN TIKI first?
We do have the TARTAN TIKI first as well, yes. So as I mentioned before, what we're going to do is move through the seasons a little bit. So we're going to start quite fresh with summertime. So what we're going to do is we're going to move in and we're going to start with the Glenlivet Caribbean Reserve. So this little guy just down here, basically what we've done here is we've finished our whiskey in casks that have held Caribbean rum. Now what that does to the whiskey is quite an interesting, beautiful thing. I mentioned before that pineapple, remember me saying before that fresh flavour that's there? Yeah, 100%. When we introduce this rum cask to it, what we're actually doing is we're introducing more sort of tropical notes, Harriet. So you're getting perhaps like a little bit more sort of banana starting to come in there,
Pineapple perhaps?
Pineapple's definitely in there, yeah, 100%. But what it's really doing is it's sort of making it a little bit heavier. Do you know what I mean? So where before we have that fresh, that freshly cut pineapple, that quite acidic one, it's becoming a little bit more mellow, a little bit more sort of maybe cooked, a little bit roasted. You've got toffee in there as well, toffee apples. You've got beautiful flavours as well. On the nose, you're getting bright pear and red apple.
For those of you at home, it might be a good chance to have a little sip of this without any cocktails, just so you can get these flavour notes that David is talking about.
100%, yes. Get it in a glass, have a little nose, start getting those nice aromas that are there. Remember, when I say these flavour notes, those are just sort of the things that, we see as being there. But if you get anything else out there, take a note, put it in the comments as well. Let us know what you're getting from it, because like I say, this wonderful thing about whiskey is it can be enjoyed by everybody. And everyone's going to get something different from it. So whatever you get, let us know, because we're interested to sort of hear it.
No, there's no wrong answer.
There's no wrong answer.
Please don't feel embarrassed to put anything that you smell or taste down there. We encourage everyone to get involved with this.
100%.
It's really important to us. And it also widens our sort of thoughts on what people think about the whiskey.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. Like, there's so many different notes in there, and like I say, we don't know all of them. Do you know what I mean? So it's always good to sort of converse and have this back and forth for our own knowledge as well, so we know what other people are tasting from it. So the TARTAN TIKI unto itself, this is a really nice, simple drink, a nice build, really celebrates those tropical flavours, and is a really bright way to start us off. Quite the palate cleanser, I think, this one here.
David's very modest, but he invented this drink, so it's probably one of his favourites.
Well, come on, what can I say? Well, what we're going to do, we're going to dive straight in, Harriet. We're going to start in with a short glass. We're going to go in with 50 mils of our whiskey. Remember, like I said before, if you don't have a jigger, use a shot glass, something like that. So for every 25 mils there, you're going to use 2 to round up to 50. That's why I'm using this side here. So we're going to go in with our Glenlivet Caribbean Reserve. There we go. Shake that just in there.
And if you don't have a short glass, a tall glass is absolutely fine. This drink is equally enjoyed long and short.
100%, yeah, 100%. What we've got here as well, Harriet, we've got 25 mils of pineapple juice, which we've measured out beforehand. So just throw that in there. Any pineapple juice is going to work for this, any sort of shot bought or anything like that. The more premium you want to go with it, maybe the better drink you get from it, but anything is going to work basically at the end of the day with this. Then what we're going to do is Angostura bitters. So we've all seen these on the back bar. So nice standard bitter every day. Again, available in all supermarkets as well, most at least. If not, you can quite easily get these online. If you want to chop and change for a different flavour as well, there are others available out there, but we recommend going with the Angostura just for this one. 2 dashes of that, just in there. And then what we're going to do is add ice. Now, What's the thing about ice, we always say?
Ice is nice.
Ice is nice, 100%.
You can never have enough ice.
100%. The more ice that's in your drink, the better it's going to be, basically. So the more that's in there, the fresher it's going to be, the colder the drink's going to be, and basically, you know, you're going to get more of that flavour there for longer. Do you know what I mean? It's going to be quite important to do that. So the more ice you've got in your drink, make sure you keep it as full as you possibly can. That goes when we move on to shaking cocktails as well afterwards. And then what we're going to do, we're going to top with just a little bit of peach soda. So you can get a range of peach sodas or sparkling waters. Basically what this is going to do is really sort of lay into those flavours that we've got in the Caribbean Reserve. And the carbonation that's in there as well is going to lift all these flavours all the way through. So it just adds that intensity. So just get a little bit in there.
Wow, I'm getting excited to taste this.
There we go, you see, that's what I'm talking about. Get a nice little wash line in there. And then, like I said before,
do you want to explain for the people at home what a wash line is?
Yeah, so basically a wash line is just this little area just here. It's just more what we've sort of been, the way we've sort of been taught to do it through the years, basically. It just gives a nice little clean cut to the drink and just make sure that when you add like a little bit of garnish in there as well, if there's like a little bit of displacement, you're not going to like, you know, lose liquid. You're not going to spill. You've got a great drink here as well. The last thing you want to be doing is losing precious millilitres of it. So I'm just going to give this a little mix just here, and all that's going to do, Harry, is just lift those flavours through, and it's just going to make sure that it's capturing and just making sure we're lifting the whiskey through. And then what we're going to do, we're going to garnish. We're going to garnish with a pineapple leaf, keeping it very, very tiki. And then just a little bit of orange as well. So this is the thing with this drink, and it goes on to this conversation I was having before as well. Whiskey's not one-dimensional, Harry. Do you know what I mean? It's not just a case of just goes into a glass and that's it, no ice, no water, anything like that. You can have it whichever way you see fit, whichever way you enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? And for me, this is a great celebration of, you know, a bit of the history of, like, you know, of us, what we're all about, and that flavour, but also a celebration of the Glenlivet Caribbean Reserve as well, and hopefully a good little way in out of summer going into autumn.
It looks like a super fun drink. I'm going to take a sip of this.
Someone's got to do the hard work, I guess, right?
Cheers at home.
How's that?
Lovely, lovely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
The peach definitely brings out the sweetness in it.
It does, yeah, it really does.
It's slightly softer.
Yeah.
Less like strong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you're getting those flavours coming through, because when you've got that carbonation, you're really getting the whiskey lifting through.
Yeah.
But what you're also getting as well is just that sort of peach just rounding everything off a little bit. If peach isn't your flavour, then that's absolutely fine. You can use other little sparkling waters as well and sodas. But for me, this is a great little way in. So just to recap on that one, what we've got there, we've got 50 mils of the Glenlivet Caribbean Reserve, 2 dashes of Angostura bitters, 25 mils of pineapple juice, and topped with peach soda or a soda of your choice if you do prefer. Garnish with just a pineapple leaf and a little wedge of orange as well. Do you want to move that one to the side there, Harriet, and we'll move on to the next one? So the next drink, Harriet, like I said before, we're going to go a little bit different. We're going to move a little bit more into autumn this time. So what we're going to do is a beautiful twist on a whiskey sour. Another one of your favourite drinks, I think, isn't it? Wonderful. So the whiskey sour itself, like I say, it's quite a classic drink. You know, it's traditionally probably looked at maybe having American rye in there or bourbon, but it works absolutely wonderfully with the Glenlivet Founders Reserve. Now the Glenlivet Founders Reserve, as we said before, what we have here is the influence of first fill American oak cask. And what I mean by that is basically we've got casks in here which have a beautiful imparting flavour of vanillin. So vanilla, basically. So we have quite a younger whiskies in here, but for me, what the wonderful thing about that is we get to really, really taste that heart of the Glenlivet, Harry. You know, that beautiful pineapple note we mentioned before.
Always going back to the vanilla and citrus. They're my favourite notes of Founders Reserve.
100%.
You can't go wrong with that.
You can't.
And it goes brilliantly in so many different cocktails.
It works wonderfully for what we're doing here as well, because what we're going to do is we're going to make a sour with your traditional flavours, but we're going to add orange marmalade as well. So what we need for this one, guys, is the shaker, or as I said before, maybe your protein shaker or your mason jar, whatever you have available. We're going to start with the bigger side, just here. I'm going to fill this up, and as I say, when we move in, we're actually going to fill this up with ice all the way. Now we are going to shake this, but what we're going to do with this one, because we've got a presence of egg whites in here. Now, egg white is a tricky subject for some people.
Is there a substitute?
There is, yeah,
because
100%.
Like you said, it's a tricky subject. A lot of people don't like egg white,
no.
although it is perfectly safe.
Yeah.
what is the substitute?
So you can actually use chickpea water, so we call it aquafaba. So it's a vegan alternative, it does a very similar job. What we're basically doing when we introduce these things, Harry, is we're adding like a velvetiness to the drink, you know, a little bit of viscousness. Okay. And what I mean by that is it adds a creamy sort of mouthfeel and get all those flavours on your palate. It makes for a much more luxurious drink, and it makes for a much more well-rounded drink. If you want to omit those, do feel free by all means. I mean, you can serve this straight up in a glass. We're going to serve it in a tumbler with ice, but we're going to actually move in and just sort of do it this way for now with ice. But if you want to do something different, do feel free to. Chickpea water, as I said before, basically, you know when you get your tins of chickpeas, just the sort of water that's in there. It is that simple. So whenever you get a can of chickpeas, you just sort of strain them aside. The water that's in there is going to do that job for you, basically. Brilliant. So you can put in a little, it will impart a little bit of flavour, more so than the egg white, but it will also be able to come through just with the orange that's in there.
You can always balance those flavours at home if you feel the need to add a little bit more lemon juice to sort of take a wee bit from the chickpea water, then by all means, this is your class, make it how you want it.
Exactly, yeah. These are your drinks. I always say as well, guys, the best way to drink whiskey is the way that you enjoy it the best. So that's
How do you enjoy it the best?
Oh, you know, there's so many different ways. For me, though, highball. Do you know what I mean? Honestly, just literally whiskey, fresh soda, fresh orange, beautiful and refreshing. Yeah. Sort of similar to what we did with the TARTAN TIKI, but again, just a host of different ways. Like we know like how many different cocktails we've had in the past. So there's so many different ways. So we're going to lead in with this. We're going to lead in with 50 mils of our Glenlivet Founder Reserve. As I say before with this one, big bright citrus, vanilla on the nose, and again when you get that palate in there, that presence of apple coming through again, vanilla and citrus. So this is why it works so wonderfully for what we're about to do. 50 mils.
Just to remind you, if you've got any questions about this, please pop them in the chat box. Any sort of process questions, anything you need us to repeat again, by all means, we're more than happy to do that.
100%, Harry, 100%. So we've got our marmalade next. So with this one, we've just got a very standard shop-bought marmalade. Nothing special, it doesn't have to be. High sugar content if you can, reduce sugar. You know, we're moving into the more festive time of the year, so the more sugar we can get away with at this time, to be fair. But what it's going to do, that sugar in there, it's going to sort of act a bit like a glue, basically. It's going to hold the drink together because we've got the whiskey in there. We're going to have lemon juice and egg white, but this is the body, basically.
It's the binder.
This is the binder, exactly. So what I've done here, guys, is I've measured out 2 teaspoons, as you can see here. I'm going to put these all in just now. So this is 2 in total. So measure these out beforehand if you want to, but if you have it just from the jar, do feel free. You can lick the spoon afterwards if you want to, completely up to yourself. This is the thing about cocktails at home, Harry. Do you know what I mean? You can get away with these. No rules. You can get away. You can do it in a dressing gown if you want. Yeah, of course. Do it completely, whichever way you want to do. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bring in some pre-measured lemon juice. We've got 25 mils in here.
On a note on this as well, if you find yourself short of lemons, in the baking section of most big supermarkets, they have concentrated lemon juice. Just make sure you dilute it down a wee bit with a little bit of water, just so that you've got enough that it's 25 millilitres. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, it works quite well actually. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you've got things like a Mexican elbow at home, you can always use that, but yeah it's a good alternative to use something along those lines. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to fill a rocks glass with ice. And then I'm going to add my egg white. And remember, as said before, if you want to have an alternative in there, do feel free with your chickpea water. If you don't want it in there at all, don't worry, you'll still get an absolutely fantastic drink. You can serve that over ice or neat. Then we're just going to shake this. But we're going to do it without ice first. We're going to give it a good boil. We're going to give it 2, in fact, not just 1. So the reason we're going to do it twice is quite simple. Whenever we add egg white, we're going to do what we call a dry shake. Now what that does, it just emulsifies the egg white. And when I said before about that sort of velvety flavour that we're going to get, it's all about that. Now don't worry, we'll add ice afterwards and we will chill it down and we'll dilute it as we would do another cocktail. But it's just an extra step really. Again, it just adds to your drinking experience. So I'd always recommend to go with it. So you're going to count me down?
3, 2, 1.
Nice. So put some back into it. If it's a few of you, a couple at home, you can have a little competition, I guess, can't you? You can do it whichever way you want to.
I always win those competitions.
Yeah, well. So we're just going to get that sort of emulsified just now. We've started to get that. If you just sort of see in the tin as well, you can see how that's starting to emerge. Add a little bit of ice. And when I say add ice, I mean go all the way up to the top. Remember what we said before, the more ice you've got in there, the more you control the rate of dilution, the colder you keep your drink, and you get more of that experience coming through when you do it like this.
Brilliant.
So we're going to get just another...
Now, is the egg white affected affected at all when you leave it to sit for a minute, or will it be okay? Will it keep that frothiness?
It will, yeah. So if anything, it's going to settle more. So you know when you, when it goes into the glass, what we'll see is it start to sort of like lift up a little bit. So it will settle while we're doing this. It will have its effect, but we're going to shake it again anyway, just to sort of get that ice through there. But you can leave it sitting for a minute if you want to. It's not going to drastically affect the drink. Just remember to get that step in first. Remember just to make sure that you're doing it with dry, and remember you're doing it with ice as well. So we'll do one more. Can count me down again?
3, 2, 1.
Yes. There it is. There we go.
For those people at home as well, how many seconds would you recommend shaking for?
5, 10, something like that. Yeah, whatever you feel comfortable with. If you've got a shaker like this, probably like the minute you can't really hold it anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's going to get really cold. Yeah, it's going to get really cold. Again, like don't go too much. Remember, you've got some moving in here as well. So if you do go through the egg white and do it too much, it might get a little bit thick and a little bit clumpy. That's what you want to kind of avoid. You want to have that nice consistency through, but you'll be able to see as soon as you open the tin, Harriet, you'll see there as well.
Oh yeah.
You've got that big sort of froth there, and that's exactly what you're looking for. So at this point, we're going to strain this in. Now I'm going to just basically use this fine strainer.
Okay.
Now that's just going to hold back any of those little bits of ice that are in there, little bits that's in the marmalade. If you've got a tea strainer or something along those lines, you can always use that. That will work wonderfully. But if you've got something that, like say a sieve or something like that, I probably recommend doing it into a bigger vessel first, then transferring it into the glass basically, because it can get a little bit messy with a sieve. But it does work well. So let's get this in.
Keeping all the valuable ingredients. We don't want any spillage.
100%. Bad, like anyone who spills whiskey, I swear to God. Do you know what I mean?
They're in the bad books.
They're in the bad books, aye, 100%. It's pretty much sacrilege where you come from there, isn't it? There we go. So you can see there, guys, you see that nice sort of bit of colour in there. We see we're just holding things back. We'll go right to the top on this one. We talked about wash lines previously. You want to be able, you can get away with a little bit more on this one. So.
And I believe we're finishing it off with an orange garnish?
We are, yes. So we're going to really sort of complement the flavour that's in that marmalade, Harry, and we're going to complement the flavour that's in the Glenlivet Founders Reserve as well. Nice little zest of orange. Oh, we'll get one that's a little bit fresher than that. I'm just going to do is just basically get it like this. You don't have to have it as fancy as this, you just need the peel. Basically, if you've got like a peeler or anything like that, just get it down on the orange. You can do it with a knife as well, just watch those fingers if you do it, because I've done it myself before, and I wouldn't recommend it to anyone to nearly lose a finger doing this. But what you want to do, Harry, is you want to sort of like express the oils over the drink. Now, what I mean by that is whenever you zest anything, you'll see that oil sort of coming out there. There's a lot of flavour in that, there's a lot of freshness, and when we actually lift this drink up to our mouth to try it, we want to be able to get that straight away. So if we just squeeze it on the outside like that, can you see how that expresses over there?
Yeah.
And then if you want, you can just sort of go around the rim of your glass, just make sure you got that in there, and you can just sort of set that in just on the side, just
Perfect.
like that.
Look how Instagram that looks.
I know, right?
Absolutely love it, my favourite thing.
We're pretty good for the Instagrams here today, aren't we, to be fair?
We have a bit of a competition between us.
We do, actually.
To get more followers.
Yeah, she's winning, but you know, it is what it is. So, Harry, do you want to dive in?
Yeah, just to remind you at home as well, please post your pictures. We'd love to see how your own cocktails are looking.
100%.
And tag at the Glenlivet.
100%. So just to go over that recipe one more time. 50 mils of the Glenlivet Founders Reserve, 2 teaspoons of orange marmalade, 25 mils of lemon juice, and egg white. So when I use egg white, I just use the white of 1 egg, basically. But if you're going to use the chickpea water instead, maybe about 25 mils, something like that. But as I say before, just to reiterate that fact, if you don't want to use them, don't worry about it. Serve over ice, garnish with a zest of orange. And remember, guys, like I say before, if you've got any more questions about any of the things we've covered in this just now, this second drink, do throw them in the chat. We will be more than happy to answer them as we go through.
And I believe last but not least, the hot toddy, my absolute favourite Christmas cocktail.
Toddy. This is the one, right? This is your favourite drink, I'm right in thinking, yeah?
It is. I just think there's something so nice about having a warm cocktail at Christmas time. Also, I'm from the north of Scotland, where it is usually absolutely freezing, even in summer, so this can be enjoyed at all seasons in Scotland. That's okay.
There's never a bad time for it though, is there? Do you know what I mean? And it's that thing as well, like before, like, you could always sort of just fill like a hot water bottle with it, do you know what I mean? And just like, you know, have it in there and just sip a little bit out into your cup. Yeah, of course, 100%, like there's ways around it. get adventurous with your drinking, guys, basically is what we're trying to say.
But responsibly.
But responsible, 100%, always responsible. So we're going to go in with a beautiful version of this using the Glenlivet Founders Reserve again. And what we're going to really sort of lean into is that bright citrus flavour, especially that orange that we've got in the liquid as well. So again, we did a little nose and taste before. If you get your nose back in there with your samples, guys, you'll be able to see that sort of bright orange there, and you'll see exactly what our intentions are with this drink, basically. So we're going to move in just your standard hot toddy sort of formula. We're not going to mess around with anything too much. I'm going to go in with 50 mils of the Glenlivet Founders Reserve this time into our enamel mug.
Important to stress, please use glassware that can hold boiling water, because we are topping up with boiling water at the end. So please don't use a glass unless it can hold boiling hot water.
Yeah, exactly. If it's like an insulated glass, wonderful. If it's, you know, a mug or anything like that, do you know what I mean?
A glass latte mug, maybe?
Yeah, that would work wonderfully.
Like
do you know what I mean? Like
a
mug, yeah, a mug would work beautifully. So we've got 50 mils. Make sure we get all of that in there. We want to make sure we've got as much in there as possible. We're going to go back to our Angostura bitters in a second. We've got some lemon juice just in here.
How much lemon juice is that?
So just 15 mils in there, basically. So we've got that sort of that little bit of citrus in there just to sort of cut through the sweetness that we're going to bring in. We've got our Angostura bitters just here.
And what is the Angostura bitters
purpose
in this drink?
So basically what it's going to do, so it's going to add a nice sort of anise note to it. So star anise flavour, a little bit of cinnamon in there as well. So those sort of rustic flavours that we're very, very familiar with Christmas, Harriet.
Yes,
and
the wintry ones.
The wintry ones, absolutely.
The winter warmers.
So again, before it served a very, very different purpose in the previous drink. It just sort of cut through and added that brightness. But here what it's going to do is just really sort of give us a little bit more oomph with the whiskey. So again, I'm going to go in with just two. Oh, that was...
Don't worry about it.
So we're going to go in with just 2 of those in there. And then what we're going to do is add some honey. So I've just measured this out already, Harriet. This is 15 mils of honey, basically. So just your standard clear honey that you get through the shop. Just use that. That's going to work wonderfully in this.
If you don't have honey, just use some sort of sweetener, sugar syrup. Like a 1-to-1 sugar syrup would work the same way.
1-to-1 sugar syrup would work great. Yeah, agave nectar. If you know if you want to find a vegan option, still get that sort of bright flavour through and that sort of depth that the honey gives you. You can also do that as well.
Last up, the boiling water.
Last up is boiling water. So yeah, be careful with this one. So what we've got here is some boiling water fresh from the kettle. Now with this one, again, it is sort of imperative to how much flavour you want in there as well. We go with about 75 mils of hot water. If you want to add a little bit more, do feel free to do so. I've got about 75 in here, just up to 100, so I can just sort of chop and change as I want to go, Harriet, do you know what I mean? But
you don't want to over dilute it.
No, of course, at the end of the day. But what this is going to do, there's going to be enough in there to sort of warm the rest of the ingredients as well. So don't worry about the rest being cold and obviously taking away from that. So we're just going to pour straight in there. There we go.
Lovely.
And then what we can do, Harriet, is just give that a little stir as well, just to sort of mix everything together and give us a little bit of vibrancy in there. And then what we're going to do is, I know you love this bit.
This is my favourite garnish.
This is your Instagram moment, isn't it? 100%.
This is the Instagram moment. This is a lemon with cloves in it. So
it is.
Very Christmassy, almost like Christingle style, but we have it in a lemon today. So if we just pop the lemon on the side of the mug.
Yep, so basically what we're going to do, we could just drop it on the side there, or we just drop it straight in basically, just to sort of give it that sort of flavour, because what the clove is going to do is sort of seep into the drink as well, and it's just going to sort of evolve and change as we go into it. So again, if you want to sort of brine it up, you can do it in a lemon wheel as well if you want to, but for me, just sit that straight in there, and it's just going to sort of infuse into, it's like its own little like infusion packet into the drink,
like
basically.
Like a tea bag.
Like a tea bag, yeah, like a fresh yellow tea bag. Yeah.
On another note as well, if you've got cinnamon sticks at home, that would work quite well, and you can even use that as a stirrer.
Yeah, you certainly can. Yeah, anything you've got there to really add to that sort of festive flavour is going to work wonderfully in this as well. You know, again, we go back to that point we made before about, you know, these are your drinks. If there's a certain way that you sort of enjoy having them, a little twist that you enjoy having on these, you know, do feel totally free to go with that as well. Now, I've seen you eyeing this up for a wee second.
Do you want it? You've made all the drinks, you've done all the hard work.
No, I feel
Since it's my favourite.
It's your favourite, yeah, no problem at all. And we've got enough here as well to last us for another couple.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers, guys. So again, just to go over that one more time, what we've just put in there. So we've got 50 mils of the Glenlivet Founders Reserve. We've got 2 dashes of Angostura bitters. Trying to get them in the cup because I didn't, but you do just go with 2. 15 mils of lemon juice and 15 mils of honey. But again, as we say before, if you want to chop and change that for something like agave syrup or a 1-to-1 sugar syrup, do feel free, whatever you have to hand. But You're just sort of balancing all the ingredients in there and putting like sour against sweet. And then what we're doing is about 75 mils of boiling hot water with a little clove-studded lemon in there as well. How's that?
For your Instagram moment.
Yeah, for your Instagram moment as well. This is the time for Instagram. This is a wonderful time to really get creative with your drinks and really get some great pictures out there. How is it, Harry?
Delicious.
Yeah?
It's an 11 out of 10.
11 out of 10, you see?
My favourite.
That's why we do it. Wonderful.
Should we recap the drinks we've made today?
Yeah, let's go over them. So should we start at the beginning or start where we... Yep.
So we've started with the TARTAN TIKI.
Yep, 100%.
Do you want to recap the recipe for that one?
Yeah, of course. So with the TARTAN TIKI, what we did 50 mils of the Glenlivet Caribbean Reserve, 25 mils of pineapple juice, 2 dashes of Angostura bitters, and topped with peach soda before garnishing with an orange and a pineapple leaf.
And next up, we had the marmalade sour.
Marmalade sour's in there as well. So we've moved on to the Founders Reserve for this one. So you can actually use this one. So we've got 50 mils of the Glenlivet Founders Reserve, 25 mils of lemon juice, 2 bar spoons or teaspoons of marmalade, and also egg white in there as well, or chickpea water if you do see fit.
And last but not least, the favourite.
My favourite, the hot toddy. Yes, we've gone 50 mils of the Glenlivet Founders Reserve in this one, 75 mils of hot water, 15 mils of honey, and 15 mils of lemon juice, along with 2 dashes of Angostura bitters. An important thing to note as well with the TARTAN TIKI, like I say, you can also use Founders in there as well if you do want to. It works beautifully with the Glenlivet Caribbean Reserve, but if you want to sort of chop and change that with Founders, you can also do that as well. It does work wonderfully.
On that note, is there any way we could twist up these cocktails for people making drinks in the future?
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's so many different variants, like, you know, even using different bitters and that kind of thing in the TARTAN TIKI. With the marmalade sour, you might want to use maybe like an apricot marmalade or something like that.
Jam, maybe?
Yeah, 100%. Another little twist as well is a mince pie sour. Basically,
yum.
yeah, you know it's going to be good already from the get-go, don't you? So the same sort of principle we've sort of gone with today, except instead of the marmalade, what you do is sort of take the top off a mince pie, scoop out that beautiful mince meat in there, drop that in there, and it's just a little festive, fun twist on it, basically, and just something a little bit different. So I'd always sort of recommend having that sort of fun. But yeah, like we've said before, you know, the more you want to play around with these drinks, you know, the more we can actually go for them as well. So you can get all the ingredients for the cocktails from any supermarket, any larger supermarket as well for the whiskies, but you can also get online as well, so through Amazon or other such online shops as well, you can find our spirits on there. The thing to take away from this as well is whiskey's always a conversation, whiskey's fun, whiskey can be mixed, it can be drank whichever way you want to do, and we hope that you do that with the Glenlivet this year.
Please sign up for our other masterclasses. We've got 5 other spirit-based masterclasses going on over the festive period. We hope you've enjoyed this session. I think we'll all agree it was fantastic. Thank you, David.
No problem. Thank you for helping me out.
And have a lovely festive period. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Goodbye.